when we was going to high school, there's about 15 of us guys that all run together. And every one of them went to work for a distillery when we got out of high school but me. And I said, that's not what I want to do. I said, I don't want to do that. I want to do something else. And I'm the only one in the whole bunch that wound up working a whole lifetime at the distillery.
We're back with another episode of the Bourbon Pursuit podcast. My name is Kenny, and I have Ryan here today. And Ryan, how's it going?
Good, man. Still sleep deprived from the twins, but rocking and rolling. Excited for today. We're here at Stitzel-Weller here in Shively, Louisville, Kentucky. Excited to talk to Mr. Perry here.
He's worked at Stitzel-Weller Distillery for the past 45 years. He's here today as a kind of a historian and generation and kind of a storyteller. I think these are just the stories that people want to be able to hear, because, you know, here in the next 50 years, a lot of these stories, they'll never be heard of again because everybody that kind of started this whole bourbon industry eons ago, it's now matured to a point where it's we want to try to capture as much as we can.
You know, from the Stitzel-Weller stuff I know is, you know, from the Pappy, and whenever they shut down, I was only 5 or 6 years old, so haven't had too much Stitzel-Weller product, but interested to hear, you know, all the stories and stuff that went on back in the day.
Yeah, I'm excited about this too. You know, we found our guest because my company was hosting an event here at the distillery. This distillery is now called the Bulleit Frontier Experience. If you need to Google it, it'll be under 2 different names. But my company was having an event here, and I rolled up, and as soon as you come up, there's a security gate. And as soon as I got here, this nice old man came and he greeted me and he goes, "Well, my name's Carol Perry. I've been here at the Stitzel-Weller Distillery for 45 years. How can I help you?" And I said, didn't even think about where I needed to go. I said, you know, "Carol, the first thing I want to do is get you to be a guest on our show."
Yeah,
and
you're the man we need to talk to.
How does that sound? And so we kind of had some good conversations after that, and that's what led up to here. Always find what you love at Total Wine & More. With so many great bottles to choose from at the lowest price, it's easy to find your favorite Cabernet or a new single-barrel bourbon to try with some help from one of their friendly guides. And with every bottle comes the confidence of knowing you just found something amazing. With the lowest prices for over 30 years, find what you love and love what you find only at Total Wine & More. Curbside pickup and delivery available in most areas. Visit TotalWine.com to learn more. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Drink responsibly and be 21. Do you ever pour yourself a bourbon, swirl it around, and then start struggling to come up with tasting notes? And perhaps you're also looking for a good Father's Day gift idea. Well, you can now solve both with a kit from Knows Your Bourbon. And unlike other nosing kits on the market, Knows Your Bourbon kits feature real ingredients for the most authentic aromas. You can smell real Tahitian vanilla bean instead of some synthetic aroma that's just made from chemicals. So head on over to knowsyourbourbon.com and enter code BP10 for 10% off your order.
Play Whiskey Wednesday, Round 11, the memory game. Until June 26, each week you could win one of our 12 incredible grand prizes. Select 2 doors at checkout, and if they match on drawing night, you'll win that bottle. Not a match? No worries. You still score a Weller 12-year. Every $5 ticket gives you 5 chances to win, including 4 weekly bonus prizes. Get your tickets now at give270.org. Charitable Gaming License ORG 0002703.
From their bar to yours, Chad and Sarah of the popular YouTube channel It's Bourbon Night bring you their favorite at-home old-fashioned mix with the new Elemental Elixir's Golden Hour Syrup. It's a custom-made syrup with notes of bold black tea, warm spices, and orange zest. All you need is your favorite whiskey and ice. No bitters needed. 1 bottle makes 16 drinks, so that's only $1 a cocktail before you add your own whiskey. They can also be enjoyed in other cocktails or spirits, mocktails, coffee, tea, and anything you can think of. It's crafted locally in Lexington, Kentucky, and you can get your bottle now at whiskeyambitions.com. Ed Bly and Rising Tide Spirits are back again with a new release of Old Stubborn Bourbon. And this release of Old Stubborn is a premium hand marriage of 10, 11, and 12-year cask strength, barely filtered pot still bourbon. It comes in at a staggering 123.8 proof, and the flavoring grain for this one, which the last one was wheated, but this time it's now rye. Rich, sweet, and bold with a long finish that's sure to be another eye-opener. You can order online at Sealbox or thebourbonconcierge.com, and you can even purchase in person at Revival Vintage Spirits, and even now with very few select stores in Kentucky. You can get it now while you can, but be sure to do it because it's not going to last long. So let's go ahead. I want to introduce our guests. So today we have Carol Perry. Carol, actually, we'll go ahead and we'll call you Perry because Perry is what you go by. Kind of give us an idea of what you've been doing here for the past 45 years.
Well, I started here at Kenny in 1970 in September, which this is September, so it's 45 years. And I started in advertising, and I worked there for a while. And in order to get permanent at this facility, you had to have 90 days on the job, and they would lay you off with a half a day left before you got your 90. So I bid on a warehouse job and went into the warehouse department next, and I worked there for several years. And then I bid on different jobs and worked all around the plant. And I also went out of the union and went company in 1987 and went into security. And I became chief of security here for several years. And then we had different facilities that we transferred from one site to the other. And I've been through W.L. Weller, O. Fitzgerald, Rebel Yale, Cabin Steel, David Nicholson, and now we're back with Bourbon and I.W. Harper and the new Blade and Bow. So I've been through several different brands of bourbon in my life.
Well, that's pretty interesting to know about.
Those are a lot of good brands.
And then I came back here and retired in 1999 and was called back in the year 2000. They said
doesn't sound like much of a retirement, does it?
Not much, but we needed me to help train, so I came back and I'm still here.
Talk a little bit about what's life working at a warehouse at Stitzel-Weller.
Well, back in the early 70s, it was a hard job. It was dirty, it was cold in the winter and hot in the summer. And you had, of a morning when you went to work, you had a half hour. We opened all the windows on every warehouse, and they gave you 1/2 hour to open them. And in the afternoons, they gave you 1/2 hour to close them. And they expected them to be done within that 30 minutes.
How many windows was that?
264 windows per warehouse.
Oh, wow. Yeah, just driving in, you can see all the windows, my Lord. And only 30 minutes to do that. You
30 minutes.
To do that.
And then we had government men on the property at that time, and he would stand there and wait for you to open that door and close those windows and make sure that it was relocked when you got done.
So what was the whole point, I guess, of I guess this is one thing that we kind of don't see when we talk to distillers nowadays is, well, why did they have to have you go and open and close the windows every single day? What was the point of doing that?
Well, their theory was that the whiskey would age better if you let the air come through the warehouse and circulate.
Okay. So, I mean, was it like better during day production, or should I say aging the barrels better during the day if they had the circulation versus at night? Like, I don't understand why they wouldn't have it just open all the time or just none at all. Or
well, now we do keep them open all summer. We open them in 1st of April and close them around the 1st of November. But back then, their theory was to let it air in the daytime and close them at night when it was cold.
What other kind of things from, working at a warehouse? Like what kind of experience did you gather from there? Any other kind of stories of being able to kind of do the stuff that goes on in a warehouse?
We had a warehouse superintendent here at that time that he took care of his people very well, and he would go up of a morning and get a bucket of what we called White Dog, which is now called Distillate. And he would set it down behind the door facing and say, "All right, boys, you all get you a drink and let's go to work. It's time to start."
Was this at like 9 a.m. every day or 8 a.m.? Like
7 a.m.
7 a.m.
So instead of coffee, you got it's a distillate.
Right.
White
Yeah.
Dog.
I
Nice.
was about to say.
To keep you warm in the wintertime.
Yeah.
You think that the generations now, including ourselves, we're a little bit weak. Considering if that's
yeah,
what
I'd be napping all day. If I'm boozing during the day, I'm snoozing by noon.
Well, I'm sure it was also a work ethic sort of thing back then too. That having your own product on the job probably wasn't very uncommon. It was probably something that always happened.
Right. I think that was just handed down from past years. They would say that we had a little rubber hose that you tied around your leg. And we'd take that into the warehouse, and when you would get in there, somebody would say, "Who's got the mule today?" That's what they called it. And somebody would say, "Oh, I've got it. I've got it right here." You could knock the bung out of a barrel and stick that little hose in there and get you a drink. But you better not get caught drunk or you would get fired.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm assuming that's not the typical practice anymore. I mean,
No.
Yeah. I mean, because even talking to, some people who do craft beers, they can enjoy their own beers during the day. But, doing that with a bunch of bourbon, I don't think it's
pushing a bunch of barrels around drunk doesn't sound too ideal.
So there's a lot of workman's comp things that would have to be.
Liability
Could have been. Very possible. Very possible.
Back then, I mean, was everything still automated like it is now? Because pretty much everything is all done through conveyor belts and machinery and stuff like that. So, is there a glimpse of the past that you could throw a tidbit our way?
No, there was a lot of different things back then that you did by hand, like dumping the glass. You dumped it by hand onto a line. It went into the fillers. And
what do you mean by dumping the glass? Kind of give our listeners what a
you would just the cases would come in upright, and you would turn the case over onto the bottling line. And then at the end of the bottling line, you had the people that done the packing and sealing of the cases all by hand. Mm-hmm. And you also had your women that were working on the line that put the labels on, the state stamps, and the seals.
Okay.
So that was all did by hand back then.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so that was all done by hand.
Right.
Yeah, so that was back in the days when I guess you would see crooked labels, right? Right. When
you had women that sat right there and straightened the label up. If your crooked label came down, that would set the bottle to the side, and then it'd be somebody else standing there to straighten it for you.
If you're anything like me, then you can't get enough about bourbon. And that's why I'm a subscriber to Bourbon Plus magazine. Bourbon Plus is a quarterly publication that tells the stories from the heart of bourbon, the farmers who grow the grain, the distillers who labor over the process, and the people like you and me who raise their glasses to celebrate it all. Subscribe to Bourbon Plus magazine today at bourbonplus.com, that's PLUS.com, and use code PURSUIT at checkout for $5 off your subscription. Shopify's already taken the cash register online, helping millions sell billions around the world. But did you know that Shopify can do the same thing at your retail store? Give your point-of-sale system a serious upgrade with Shopify. Shopify's point-of-sale is your command center for your retail store. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify has everything you need to sell in person. And with Shopify, you get a powerhouse selling partner that effortlessly unites your in-person and online sales into one source of truth. Track every sale across your business in one place and know exactly what's in stock. Connect with customers in-line and online. Shopify helps you drive store traffic with plug-and-play tools built for marketing campaigns, from TikTok to Instagram and beyond. And get hardware that fits your business. Take payments by smartphone. Transform your tablet into a point-of-sale system, or use Shopify's point-of-sale Go mobile device for a battle-tested solution. Plus, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 help is there to support your success every step of the way. Do retail right with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/bourbon, all lowercase, and go to shopify.com/bourbon to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/bourbon. So I guess let's talk a little bit about the Stitzel-Weller history, right? I mean, like there's always been some famous brands and people that have come through here, and of course the most famous one was Van Winkle.
Right.
So what kind of did you ever have any actions with the Van Winkle family?
Oh yes, sir. I started to work under Julian Van Winkle Pappy Van Winkle had already passed away when I came here, and I worked under Julian until he sold the place. And I also helped Julian Van Winkle III in help training him how to roll barrels and head them up. And you pushed them with your hands and kicked them with your feet because they were all on wooden rails that run from one warehouse to another completely to the dump room. And then you would roll them into the dump room on wooden rails.
So I think we talked about a story that you had talked about when you were mentoring Julian, something about like a break room incident or something like that.
Yeah, there was a little small one. It wasn't very big. We came in one day in the wintertime. It was real cold, and Mr. Van Winkle had bourbon stored miniatures that were sighted to go overseas for export. And little Julian came in with us, and he went back and picked up a case of them and brought them out to the break room and passed them out to everybody. And we were all sitting there drinking them. And his dad walked in. And needless to say, things changed real quick. And from that day on, we called him Ripper Van Winkle.
Now, I don't think Ripper's kind of stuck around here, has it?
No, sir. I think he moved up quite a bit in the world.
So, any other times that you kind of remember with Julian? So, I guess you've known two generations of Julians, right?
Right. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So, not Pappy, but the Pappy's son, other Julian the second, right?
Third, I think he would be the third.
The third.
Julian Van
Okay.
Winkle, third.
Yep, you're right. And so, and he was the one that kind of was underneath you, right?
Right. He came in, and his daddy wanted him trained in every aspect of the distillery work, and he worked all over the plant with us and right with us. And his daddy said, "We want him to do everything that you all do."
So do you think they knew that they were going to be priming him to be the next Van Winkle?
I would suspect absolutely.
Yeah, that would make sense, right?
And then I met his sister, and she's a very interesting person, Mrs. Sally Van Winkle Campbell. And she has a wonderful book out that I think every bourbon person needs to read sometime in their life.
So I guess there was a period here when Stitzel-Weller went out of business, right?
Right.
In 93. So were you still here doing security for them, or like how you were still actually doing that?
Yes, sir. I stayed on with security all the time that we were down to our lowest point. We actually shut down the distillery. Maybe I'm wrong and you're right, but I think it was 92.
92. You're probably.
And
I'm not going to question you.
And then they shut down the bottling house in 94.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we continued with a small working crew and about 5 company people and 9 guards. We had more guards than we did working people at that time. But we had to have security around the clock here. So we just continued on working.
Maybe under your watch there was no Pappy heist. Maybe they need to hire you down at Buffalo Trace to watch over all.
There you go. I think that's a great idea. No, we've never had no major problems with anything being missing other than maybe just a bottle here and there.
And that might
which
be your
was
fault.
pretty much knowing that it was someone as an employee.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No harm, no foul there.
Right.
So no big altercations or any kind of like security breaches or people climbing over the fences and trying to roll barrels out or anything like that?
No, sir. Not as rolling a barrel out. We've had 3 people in my time here that we actually caught inside the plant. And one of them was just cutting through, and one of them was trying to steal one of our vans. And the other one, we're not sure what he was doing.
Well, that's surprising now with all the stuff that's been happening. Probably more people wouldn't be trying to steal bourbon, especially during that period when there was more security people here than there actually were workers. But.
Well, you take our warehouses, the first 3 floors had bars on the windows. And, of course, they're bonded warehouses with locks on the doors. and you can't hardly get a 450-pound barrel out the fourth floor window.
Oh, you could, but it's probably not going to be in.
Packed.
Yeah, it's not going to be in the same shape as it
Right.
was when it was up there.
Right.
So in your 40 years, I guess, being in the bourbon industry, what changes, or what, compared to the now, how popular it is now to back then? You've been through the ups and downs. So
Well,
is this the craziest time you've ever seen? Or
Right now is the craziest time I've ever seen. I never seen it explode so in the 45 years that I've been here. But now that warehouse superintendent told me when I started working with him, he said, you watch the bourbon business, said every 10 years it will change. He says that he always said that the youngest group will go to white stuff, drinking vodka and gin and whatever. And then the bourbon business will come back. And sure enough, it's came back just like he said. It's rotated approximately every 10 years.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I guess the one thing that you always see plastered up around here is the DSP KY16, right? To know that this was the plant that a lot of Stitzel-Weller bourbons were made. So do you have any of those sitting inside of your shelves at home?
Yes, sir, I certainly do. I have a collection of the decanter bottles with approximately 35 bottles left. And I also donated several of them back to this Bulleit Bourbon Experience.
Yeah.
that was nice of you. You're a better man than I am.
Maybe it's just job security at that point,
Yeah,
right?
right.
You're like,
Right.
we really like them, right? Yeah, well, you're going to try to name a room after you at some point, right?
I hope so.
So back in, I guess, the 70s and 80s, there's this mystique around, the Weller and Stitzel, as there is now, because now it's like, you have this whole aura of mystique. Was it
Right. Yeah, it was.
celebrity back then?
Old Fitzgerald was the, I think, top brand probably. Hit that and W.L. Weller. When I came here, they were the most popular on the market and the most advertised.
I guess that was bought by Heaven Hill, and they're.
Yes, sir. I think they own. I think they own that brand now, and I think Julian Van Winkle III has bought back W.L. Weller, as far as I know now. Now the Cabin Still, I'm not sure about. I think it might have went to someplace in California, but I can't answer that question.
Well, we don't really know the answer either. So I guess talking about your job and your position now, I guess what makes it exciting to be back here at Stitzel-Weller and having this new role as the eldest greeter of the bunch and being able to welcome everybody to this place?
Well, I think that is it, welcoming the people to the plant, and I love talking to people, and I enjoy hearing stories from them and where they're from and what country they're from.
And it must be pretty rewarding to kind of see how, it's under the spotlight again, with Diageo moving here and doing the Bulleit Experience, how, it's brought people back to it to, relish in the history and celebrate again.
Absolutely. I was so worried that they were going to close it completely down, and I hated to see that happen. And when they brought it back, it just made my life all worthwhile again.
Right.
So from that point, you made the steady transition to just basically stay in security at that point?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then when I got the opportunity to come up here on the Bulleit Experience, that even made it better. Absolutely.
Awesome.
So I guess we'll try to get back and talk about some more of your past here.
Well, and I'm from Lawrenceburg.
Oh, are you?
And I fished off the bank of Four Roses up there at Lawrenceburg when I was a kid, many a day in my life. And then I had an uncle lived right beside Wild Turkey. And so I've been around distilleries all my life.
Is there any other times that have really stuck out as some of the best memories that you've had in your experience in your years at Stitzel-Weller?
Well, I think the best memories was the way Mr. Van Winkle treated everybody. He treated everybody the same, and he gave us parties every year for every holiday, and any big event that we had here, we were invited just like the public. And I think that's probably my best memories of the place.
Did you get any kind of parting gifts, the Christmas gifts or anything like that?
Absolutely. He was seeing that we got country hams or turkey or something for Thanksgiving, Christmas, and also gave us a lot of bottles of booze.
Yeah, well, that's...
The gift that keeps giving.
Yeah, that's what I say. Yeah, nowadays you don't really hear that. Now anybody that we hear that actually works at a distillery, they're like, I can't get my hands on anything, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. But no, that's interesting to always hear great stories of people taking care of their own people and stuff like that. So any other times that you kind of remember?
We had the plant down at 17th Breckenridge, the old Bernheim distillery, which is Heaven Hill now.
Yeah.
And I worked down there as chief security for 5 years. When they was tearing that old distillery down and building the new one, they sent me down there, and I worked down there 5 years.
Oh.
And all the time they were building it, I was the first one to be there when they got it built and opened it up.
Yeah.
And that was interesting. That was something I did leave out.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. But, yeah, that was the interesting part of my life.
Yeah.
Because I got to see the most modern distillery in the world at that time.
Oh, yeah. That's probably when a lot of stuff was getting more automated and all that sort of stuff.
That's when they went to the automation. And it was really interesting.
Mr. Perry, thank you again for once being on the show today. We appreciate it. It's been a very enlightening experience. We always like hearing these stories that will be able to be forever lived on, and I hope the listeners also enjoy hearing them as well.
Yeah, thanks, Perry.
All right.
Kenny had heard those stories before I hadn't, so it was interesting to, see how things were run back in, and you whipping Mr. Van Winkle into shape, so one day he could take the helm. So we can. You're responsible for all his
all the greats,
all his glory.
Well,
absolutely. I helped. I wasn't responsible. I just helped.
Exactly.
There's a quote that we say in our industry that we all stand on the shoulders of giants.
Right.
Now, Perry, you're not the tallest man, but you're definitely a giant, and I think in a lot of people's books for this. So.
Well, I hope so. And I get a lot of compliments, feedback from the people that comes in and say, "Oh, well, we seen you on the internet last week." I say, "Oh, great, that's wonderful."
Well, good. Hopefully, now when people listen to this and they venture out, they'll be able to reach you at the door and be like, "I heard you on the podcast. Pleasure to meet you."
Well, thank you all very much for having me, and I really appreciate it.
Fantastic. So if you like what you hear, make sure you subscribe to us on iTunes. You can find us just by Googling Bourbon Pursuit. You can also find us the link directly on the website at bourbonpursuit.com. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Instagram, all this other kind of stuff at Bourbon Pursuit.
Perry, you got a Twitter handle?
No, I really don't.
I hear you. Well, I appreciate you spending some time with us, and if y'all have any suggestions or feedback, we'd love to hear it, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen.